Madison Square Garden. Knicks right now on their way to the conference finals.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the newest edition of Knicks for Clicks. Rami, I'm gonna preface this entire episode by saying we are in trouble. We have to sound the alarms. We're gonna get into that. I'm sure you're probably, up in the clouds. Oh, the Knicks are great. Don't worry about it. I'm not, as you could tell by my attitude here and my energy, because I'm very disgusted by what I've been seeing. So Rami and I are gonna get into that. First off, happy Passover. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Happy Passover to you and to anyone who may be watching and listening if you celebrate. And if you don't, get on board. It's pretty fun. But look, I promise from the day we started the podcast, and they played a bunch of bad teams, they won a bunch of games, looked pretty good. But the day we started, I said, I'm not going to be reactionary. After a few bad games, I'm not going to overreact to that. After a few good games, I'm not going to overreact to that. And this is the first time in the 2 weeks that we've done the show that we are really tested, that we're going to be tested with. They haven't beaten a team, I think, over 500 in almost a month. They haven't won.
It was the Nuggets game. The Nuggets game. 3.5 weeks. Bad.
It's not good. The body language looks off. Karl-Anthony and Tracy McGrady are talking on the broadcast last night. I was watching mostly the MSG, but I saw it this morning. They're talking about how there seems to be something off. Obviously, the footage has gone viral of Karl-Anthony Towns' reaction walking to the locker room after his great pass. I wouldn't read too much into that. You're down 13 at the half. Like, it was a frustrating half. Yeah, he made a nice play, but overall, it's a frustrating half. But it's hard to not look at it and be concerned, but I also don't want to overreact. So it's tough. I'm kind of caught in the middle.
Yeah, I think you're downplaying this a little bit because you're talking about the one example of him walking off the court after making that pass to cut the lead to what, 13 or 12 or whatever it was?
13,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, still a pretty big deficit. I understand that. But I'm sure you also saw the viral clips of him multiple times not being in the team huddle during timeout. I
did see that, yes.
And that, if we're talking about concerning, that is what's concerning me right now. Because this is not an issue in and of itself. We heard, I think 3 or 4 days ago, before the Thunder game, it was on NBC or what, it was Sunday Night Basketball. So it was NBC.
Oh my God. Yeah. How many times do we have to hear Reggie Miller? My God.
2 times in 3 days is a joke.
I literally, okay, yeah.
But we digress. Karl-Anthony Towns signaled his concerns yet again with his role within the offense. I don't think we don't need to really, read that quote, word for word verbatim, but it's not just the walking off the court. It's not just the staying out of the team huddle. We are dealing with Julius Randle 2.0. This is who Karl-Anthony Towns has become. The Knicks traded for him. They traded Julius Randle to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They said, all right, we're bringing in Cat. Look at Cat's attitude. Have we ever seen him look this dejected? Have we ever seen him look this disconnected from the team unit? Have we seen that? No. Julius Randle, on the other hand, he's been like that every other week with the Knicks. Well, guess what, Rami? The tides have turned. Cat has now become Julius Randle. Your thoughts on that comparison?
It's so odd because they make the trade, obviously, and he plays for Tibbs, and everyone's thought when they fire Tibbs because they need to get more out of Karl-Anthony Towns, and yet it's gone backwards. The record's the same, by the way, 48 wins through, 76 games or whatever?
48 and 34. No, that would be their end record. What, 40? They've 6 more games.
I don't know math.
76. 48 and 28. Yeah, that should
Sounds
be right. 48 and 28.
Point is, the problem is that they fired Tom Thibodeau to get more out of Karl-Anthony Towns, and he's still talking about not knowing how he fits in this offense. The offense doesn't work around him. He's not getting enough shots, and I don't blame Karl-Anthony Towns. When I watch this isn't a Karl-Anthony Towns problem for me, and the reason I say that is because the last 2 months, what have we talked about so many times on this show so far is how great he's been, how locked in he's been. He's giving effort on defense. He's shooting better from 3. Since the All-Star break, I think you could draw the line there. He's been a different guy. He's been such a key cog in what everything this Knicks team has done.
Yeah.
And yet he still looks dejected. He still looks like there's an issue. He still looks like He's, like you said, not getting along with people. He's talking about his role in the offense, not knowing what it is. To me, that's a Mike Brown thing, because you were brought here to fix that.
Yeah.
How you're not fixing it in the next 6 games? How are we going into the playoffs with the same problems we had in November? And that's my problem with it.
Totally fair. I'm going to push back on you slightly here, because I think just blaming Mike Brown is a little misguided. We can't sit here and be like, this is just a Mike Brown thing. At the end of the day, Cat could take the ball and demand that he get it. He could demand the change in scheme. Yes, that would create some vitriol between him and the head coach of the team. But what we are witnessing right now is his frustration, coupled with the fact that he's not doing anything to change it, Rami. There's nothing different in what we're seeing from Karl-Anthony Towns besides his attitude. And that is the biggest issue behind all this, because, of course, your attitude contributes to any sort of play on the court. But Mike Brown, I do agree with the sentiment that Mike Brown, this is brought upon by Mike Brown. I don't think it's just a Mike Brown thing, but he has certainly brought this out in Karl-Anthony Towns, because we know throughout this entire season, he has not been utilized correctly. The fact that, Rami, I can't remember the last time I saw a Cat, Jalen Brunson pick and roll or pick and pop. Can you remember?
And it was noticeable last night, because think about how effective he was in the second quarter when Alvarado came in. And I know Alvarado finally, he needed a good game. He hadn't had a good game in a while offensively, although it drives me insane. And Marcus Smart does the same thing. This is just an aside. But Jose Alvarado is a very aggressive defender. I understand that, and it helps them a lot of times. But you can't get caught in the passing lane and leave your guy wide open in the corner because you're going for a steal. How many times does he have to do that? It's so frustrating to watch. Marcus Smart is a big culprit of that also, because you get the counting stats if you go for the steal, right? Everyone sees the steal. But when you're cheating off of guys, this is the NBA. Tari Eason's in the corner all day, open for 3. It was frustrating last night. That's because you're brought here to be a defensive guy. So focus on the defense first before you focus on all the other little fun things, the steals, whatever. Not the point. The point is that Karl-Anthony Towns looked much better, and you're gonna love this because you're the Brunson hater. But he looked much better. I know.
Stop with this. Stop with it. Let's dispel with the notion that I'm the Brunson hater. Come on. We're not doing that. I'm going to put my foot down. We're not doing that.
He looked much better with Brunson off the floor. And I don't know where that comes. I don't think that's a Jalen thing, because last year they ran so many pick and pops, especially the first half of the year. Like, I don't know why that would be the case. It's mind numbing. I also do think, and this is where some of my positivity maybe comes from, they're getting Landry Shamet back tonight. Deuce McBride took a million shots last night that if this were a playoff game and he was this cold, he wouldn't have taken. He's trying to get into rhythm. Like, I still believe we're going to see an elevated version of this team 2 weeks from now.
When? How can you say that? What is that based off of? What have you witnessed
that I've seen better? That I've seen better.
Okay, well, what tells you that they are going to completely switch things up with 6 games to go in the regular season? I want to know.
I think what we've seen from them the last 2 months is better than what we've seen from them the last 3 games. That's my honest belief. I think since January, they've been a better team, or since middle of January, I think it was January 20th or whatever. Yeah. They've been a better team on both sides. And I know a lot of those games came against weaker teams. I still saw them dominate Denver. I still saw them dominate San Antonio. I believe they can do it against teams that are legitimately great teams. I saw the comeback win last time they played Houston. Look, there are so many frustrating things right now, specifically with Karl-Anthony Towns. Obviously, we've talked about the Mikal Bridges thing over and over again. And I was just thinking about this morning. Think about the conversation we're going to have this offseason if they get eliminated in the second round, right? Mike Brown's going to be gone if they get eliminated in the second round. I truly believe that. Anything short of a conference finals, he'll be gone. Karl-Anthony Towns, anything short of the finals, I think is gone. But think about what we be, and I think Giannis, or I don't know if Towns will necessarily be gone, but Giannis will be here if they don't make the finals this year. That you can almost guarantee.
It's a crazy thing to say. I don't know what you're basing that off of. I don't know if they're just going to magically accumulate picks and players that they want to trade.
And that's what I was thinking, because think about where we'd be sitting today if they didn't make the Mikal Bridges trade. It's like, hey, you know what? It didn't work, but we have all these assets ready to go. The Towns trade didn't work, but we have all these assets ready to go pounce on someone this offseason. And yet now we're sitting here with expensive Mikal Bridges and no assets. It's crazy.
Really depressing.
Yeah.
I don't throw that around lightly, that word. But I think the majority of Knicks fans can relate to that feeling. And of course, the season hasn't ended. They are not eliminated from contention. They might be in a month, 2 months, who knows? But I think a lot of fans are holding on to what we saw in games 1 and 2 against the Celtics. And that's part of the reason why Mikal Bridges got paid. There's a reason why fans still feel partial to Mikal Bridges and aren't completely out on him. And that's because of 2 games, Rami. 2 games over the course of 76 plus 82 plus however many games they played in the playoffs last year. And here's the other thing. Everyone's like, oh, look, you know, the best ability is availability. But like when he plays, they're not good. When they're not good. And my, obviously Cat is the biggest concern. I've destroyed Mikal Bridges over the last couple of months and fairly. But dude, I just can't get past the fact that, I mean, this is a whole aside. I'm gonna table this for in a few minutes. I want to stick with this topic, but I'm gonna table this one conversation that I want to discuss with you. I'm gonna run it by you. But just in this part of this conversation, like the Knicks are a significantly better team when one of the two are on the court. When either Brunson is on the court by himself or if Cat's on the floor by himself. And when Brunson's on the court, Mitchell Robinson's there. So that opens up a lob threat. That opens up a guy on defense that isn't inept, that can't be targeted every time down the court. You can hide one guy on defense. You can't hide 2. And the macro issue here, and it's been, called out by everyone and their mothers on Twitter, the starting lineup is terrible. I mean, how much more do you need to experiment with these guys? Like 6 more games left in the regular season. You want to, switch things up, you do it now.
Yeah, Again, I saw Stefan Bondi just posted another thing about how many minutes they've played together, which is ridiculous. Yeah, it's one of the most talked about things. And early in the season, remember, it was the double big. It was it was Huckporty and Towns. Is there something to maybe you get the most out of Brunson if Mitchell Robinson, the lob threat, is on the floor and you still have Towns just in the 4 spot? Now, it doesn't fix what you said defensively necessarily because now you have Towns and Brunson still on the floor together. Yeah. But where it does help you is you have at least a rim protector, right? So Towns, you can play him a little bit defensively on the perimeter or be like, hey, you go to the corner to whoever the worst offensive player is, and we'll try and hide you there. And that way Mitchell Robinson can kind of help out on defense. And you hope that between him, Mikal, and OG, your defense is good enough to make up. And that goes to your point. You take Josh Hart out of the starting lineup, I guess. But again, when are we seeing that change? When are we seeing this adjustment? Is 6 games enough? Because you're right. The starting lineup has not been good enough. But part of that is Mikal not hitting shots. Part of that is his defense taking a step back. So, and then the biggest part of it is obviously Jalen and Cat offensively. Because if they were poor defensively, you could live with it if the offense was just perfect and flowing the way it should when the two of them are on the floor together. Real quick, you said this is depressing. They clinched the playoffs yesterday, right? For the 4th consecutive year. And I know everyone makes the playoffs in the NBA. We shouldn't be celebrating, but it's the first time in like 25 years they've made the playoffs 4 consecutive years. Think about what depressing was 5 years ago from a Knicks perspective versus now. I know the goalposts have moved, and rightfully so, because expectations change. But at some point, like, there has to be a level of appreciation for, we're talking about this team as a championship contender that we're frustrated with. Not a loser's team that's hoping and praying on a future free agent superstar, So it changes your perspective a little bit. Maybe that's why I'm so positive.
No, I mean, I feel like we've talked about this with the Yankees, and correct me if I'm wrong. The idea of like, all right, you're a fan of a team that is going to lose every year. You're dejected. You're disassociated with that team's expectations. Like, you're just like, you know what? Like Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, they're not going to sign anyone anyway. Like, they're not going to do anything. Or the Knicks of old. Or the Mets of old. But when you have a team that was built, like they say Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, the Knicks weren't built in a day, but they were built over 5 years. And they got to the point where they made the Eastern Conference semifinals. They obviously had the injury to Randall. They had all these things working against them. And then the Mitchell Robinson injury happened before that in the series before, and that kind of threw a wrench in everything. So they didn't have a center. So instead of signing some backup center to hopefully, take the spot of Mitchell Robinson for a few months, the Knicks made the impulsive move to trade for Karl-Anthony Towns. And this, of course,
it's worse than that. It's that the stupid NBA rules didn't allow them to re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein. Like, that is just...
Yeah, but listen, that's just the reality that we live in. You just got to take what you take what they give you. That obviously screwed everything, but you can't blame Isaiah Hartenstein. He made
it's not his
$29 million a year.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Thunder are not going to pick up his team option this offseason, but either way, I mean, I guess I always thought the 4 years, 72, more security made more sense because you're like congratulations on your 3-year, $87 million contract, but the third year is not guaranteed. You're not getting picked up, so you make 58. But yeah, I mean, I want to transition to this because I feel like it's pretty understated and hasn't been mentioned a lot by people. Maybe, I'm not seeing it, but this team really misses Landry Shamet. Misses Landry Shamet. Who's coming off the bench and hitting shots? Clarkson's not known for being a three-point shooter. He's never been a highly efficient three-point shooter. As a volume scorer, that's essential. They need that. But who's coming off the bench and hitting threes?
And especially with Deuce just getting back.
I mean, you could just tell his shot is his timing. It will come back, hopefully, but
it will. And I don't know if it'll take the first round of the playoffs, but it'll take time, but he will get back to form. That's why I mentioned it at the top, him coming back tonight, because it is huge for them that Landry Shamet's coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all those minutes that we talked about with Mikal Bridges. Now, if you're hitting those corner threes, if you have a guy, he's shown so much more off the dribble and creation than we've seen in the past. And his defensive effort is so high. His defensive energy raises everyone else's defensive energy because of the energy he gives. So,
and Rami, here's the other thing. Mikal Bridges' minutes have gone up since Landry Shamet got hurt.
Of course, because Shamet's been the one playing for him.
No other option but to play him, because you take him out because you're finishing games with Cat and Brunson. Like, what defensive player are you going to put in? Deuce obviously just came back to us. Alvarado, like that, he's too short, too small. Your lineup is too small. Are you going to go double big? No.
Right.
You have the spacing you need. So it has created this issue where, down the stretch of the game, you don't have shooting. Cat's too afraid to shoot. Brunson is doubled and tripled, and quite frankly, he still hasn't played up to par with what we expect. But yeah, I mean, I think they really need Shamet. Like that's the big thing. And I have a major bone to pick with Mike Brown. The fact that Deuce McBride comes back and Mo Diawara disappears. What better defender do you have off the bench? Deuce is like point of attack defender, but in terms of, and like Mitch, but big man, like wing defenders, wing defender, long, quick feet, like that type of guy, a big body, can't get bodied like Karl-Anthony Towns can.
And this is what we talked about. Yeah,
I knew this was coming too. Okay, you can't go 10, 11 deep. I get that. And I know Jordan Clarkson has played well, but you got to play 10 to 11 guys. Like, just throw him in there for a few minutes, see what he gives you. If he doesn't have it, short sample size. You either have it or you don't. You pull him if he doesn't. That hasn't been happening. Mike Brown. That's
exactly what I said I thought Mike Brown was going to do when we had this conversation a week ago. Yeah. And he didn't. Like, that's crazy to me that it's such an obvious decision for him to be like, okay, let's see what we got here. And then he doesn't do that. Like, that was why you were brought in. Again, if you told me a year ago or 6 months ago, why did they bring in Mike Brown? Get the offense going around Karl-Anthony Towns, get the most out of Karl-Anthony Towns, and utilize the bench. And he has, but all of a sudden, it looks like he's failing at both of those things right now. Like, that's frustrating to me. That's crazy. Yeah. And it's a problem for them. And it's what we anticipated, but I don't know why. This was the guy who was supposed to make it better. That's why my biggest problem right now is with Mike Brown over anything else. Yeah. And not to be like, I told you so, because we didn't have this podcast,
10 months ago when I think it was June 1st when Tom Thibodeau got fired 10 months ago to the day. We obviously didn't have this podcast, but we've discussed this, like the fact that they didn't have a plan and that was disgusting and whatever ended up happening there. I never thought Mike Brown was the guy. I agreed with the decision to fire Tom Thibodeau. I thought it was time to move on. But to go for a guy like Mike Brown, someone who you could say is proven. You had high expectations. Everyone understood that. But let's look across the league. Which teams are the most successful? Just look at all these teams. The established head coaches are not successful. All of these
Congratulations, Hall of Famer Doc Rivers.
I'm just you took the words right about it. They hired Doc Rivers. Whatever happened there, and everyone,
to
be honest, everyone knew that was going to happen. But let's look around the league. That Doc Rivers hiring, Mike Brown, like we can go on and on. The teams that are at the top of each conference have hired within the last 3 or 4 years established assistants. Rami,
Yep.
This is what I was dead set on. I'm like, you want to go and fire Tom Thibodeau? You're going to bring in another coaching stalwart in the NBA? You're going to bring in a guy who's had multiple chances to win championships? And I understand the 2007 Cavs had nothing compared to the Spurs that year, and they got gentlemen swept. But, we're beating the dead horse here. I think
that's why to me, Mike Brown is on the hot seat, even though it's just 1 year. Like,
yeah. No, I think everyone agrees.
If he doesn't get them as far as they got to last year, he will be fired. And now I have a question for you because we're looking at playoff seeding. There are 6 games left.
Yeah.
It is a crazy thought to say that maybe the 4 seed and falling back behind the Cavs is actually better.
Well, I mean, obviously it depends on Cade Cunningham's return because if he doesn't,
but
they could get knocked out, even though they're playing well without him.
Even if he comes back, though, that might be worse. Like him having to readjust and, is he fully himself? Like it might not be the worst thing. Also, when you look at the first round series, Charlotte's going to be way tougher if they have to play Charlotte versus playing a team that comes off the play-in. Let's say it's the Hawks. Like
I give up 2 first-round picks for Charles Lee to be the head coach of this team.
Yeah,
I give up the rest of their swaps, all the swaps.
I'll take Will Hardy from Utah, by the way.
It's random. So
he's a good coach. I like him.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. It's we can't like this is going to be the conversation, obviously. Especially if the Knicks go down in a series, even before they lose, everyone's going to be, Chicken Little, sky's falling. But, I think we're both in lockstep on the majority of these things. Besides, you think it's all Mike Brown. I think it's partially karl-anthony Towns. I believe you got to assign some blame to him.
But you have to, but at the same time, you knew what kind of guy he was when you made the Mike Brown hire. So,
what if this isn't a Mike Brown thing or a Tom Thibodeau thing? What if there just isn't a way to maximize? What if it's easier said than done? Like, there's no head coach that can maximize both Cat and Brunson together. Maybe they're just not a good fit.
That you're 100% right on that. And one of the guys that they did reach out to was Chris Finch. Another guy they reached out to was his assistant.
Mike Norton. That was my guy.
And
that was my guy. Sam Cassell. I love Sam Cassell.
Maybe this offseason, that's the direction they go. But again, it didn't work for Tom Thibodeau in Minnesota with Cat. It didn't work for him in New York with Cat. Now it's not working with Mike Brown. So you're right. It definitely worked
better, with the double big
under Tibbs,
with Cat as the 4 and Rudy Gobert as the 5.
So, correct. And I understand that Mike Brown tried to do that earlier this year. Maybe that's what they do in the playoffs. I don't know, but you're right that maybe it's a Cat thing because he's had plenty of head coaches and he still seems to be an enigma. But the reason why I've moved away from that is because my eye test is showing me that he's playing well. Like he's actually engaged. He's giving an effort. He's locked in on defense. I can't blame the guy who looks as locked in as he's looked ever at any stretch as a Knicks. So that's my problem with it. That I've talked so much about Cat, when he was on Minnesota, I talked about it. And when now he's on the Knicks, I've talked about it too. Him being a guy that you can't win a championship with. But I don't feel like I can do that seeing the way he's played. That's honestly part of it is that, yes, I think he's a complicated guy. He's a hard guy to get to this point where he's locked in. But now he's at that point and you're still not maximizing what your return for him. Yeah,
I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. Short, digestible podcast today. Both of us, got a big celebration. You're with your in-laws. I don't know about that.
Gefilte fish and wine. Exactly. What a celebration.
With the in-laws. I don't know about that. But I got a train to catch. But yeah, it's a very exciting time in our personal lives, but our Knicks fandom lives.
Yeah,
it's a very concerning time. You're going to want to stay tuned to our podcast because this Sunday we may have a special guest, and next week and the next few weeks we've got all the guests in the world. We've got some very interesting people, some guys who are very in tune with the Knicks, who cover the Knicks, and people who love to talk about the Knicks. So stay tuned. Rami and I have got some great things coming for you. Our apologies for not doing the live stream last Sunday. I tweeted about it. We had to watch the end of that UConn Duke game, and that ended up being an amazing decision. Like I would have been in here. My roommates would have screamed, and I would have been like, damn, like we would have had to end the stream.
I probably would have had it on the TV in front of me and would have been upset.
No, you can't. What are we going to do? End the stream? So our apologies for that every Sunday going forward, especially as we get to the stretch run. Besides in 2 Sundays, I'm going to be in Vegas. So maybe I could do I can call in on my phone. But Rami, great stuff today. Do you want to say something quickly?
Oh, no, I was going to say I'm in Orlando that Sunday. So,
all right, great.
Perfect.
So
Works out perfectly.
We can do a little FaceTime stream. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Rami, great stuff.
All right, man.
And we will speak to all of you, let's say on Sunday.
Let's go Knicks.
Let's go Knicks. Stay tuned to both of our Twitters. We'll let you know when we're going live. But talk to you all then.
See you.